I was at my desk. It was sort of, I guess, 3:30 that afternoon, and I started getting phone messages and emails from people around the hospital and around the country saying a volcano's erupted. The adrenaline kicked in and we sort of went into automatic pilot, and we did what we would normally do, and I went to obviously to inform people that I knew needed to know, our on-call burn nurse, and then I went to go and find the head of ICU, and then the two of us went up to Middlemore Central together to try and find more information. So it really, the adrenaline kicked in pretty quickly, and you just go into what you need to do. And you start planning, because you know whatever this is, it's going to be something that's going to impact us for a long time. Usually patients come to us one at a time, and it's a fairly planned event. So we know that somebody's been burnt in a place around the country. We then receive a referral for them, and there's plenty of time to plan for when they're going to arrive, and we have a fair idea of how severe their injuries going to be and what we might expect to see when they arrive. The difference for us on this day was, first of all, we didn't know how many patients there were, we didn't know how severely they were burnt, and we also didn't know which hospital they were going to go to. So it was very different on many levels. The other difference for us was obviously these patients were all from international countries, or most of them were from places around the world. So the patients themselves were on their own when they arrived with us. So that was quite different, as well as their injuries being really severe. I think one of the things that we learnt was that the work that we'd done in preparing for mass casualty disasters was really useful. We'd practiced scenarios, we had practiced communication, we'd already identified some of the gaps in the system and created solutions for those. So we learnt that really you need to continue to practice, you need to develop your communication, and that relationships are the key in these scenarios, and that we really relied on our friends and our colleagues around the country to support us through this event. We have a really strong support across New Zealand at the 4 regional burn units, so we had support from our colleagues immediately to help look after the patients, but we also have a very strong network across Australia and New Zealand. Many of us are members of the Australian-New Zealand Burn Association, and that was really useful in terms of getting appropriate resources and help both early on but also throughout the period of rehabilitation for the patients. Early on we had burn surgeons coming from Australia, and then as the patients moved into the rehabilitation phase we had support from physios and occupational therapists from Australia come to support us. But as well as that, we needed assistance to help repatriate patients to international countries, and those relationships that we have with burn colleagues around the world were really useful in terms of us getting patients back to the right place at the right time. We were also overwhelmed with love and support from the community. I've never seen so much baking. Every corner we turned around there was more baking, and letters of support and text messages and emails from people that we knew and from people that we didn't know, from colleagues, but even from ex-patients who were really sending us support and love to us, which was really very special. And we were very grateful for all of those messages. I guess one of the things I do want to say is that I'd like to acknowledge the team, and that the team included everyone in the hospital. It was our burn team, but there were also people from every service across the hospital that contributed to the successful outcome, and that sometimes meant that other services had to do things differently to allow us to have access to theatre so that we could treat the patients in the most timely way. So yes, there was a burn team that did a huge amount of work, but there were also a lot of people around us that supported that team to be able to do the work that they needed to do. Yeah. So really a thank you and an acknowledgement to the wider team as well as my own burn team. Yeah.